Thanks everybody for joining once again. I appreciate it. This is Don Gulling. I'm going to take you through our agenda today and let you know that we're doing this again in a month. We're going to keep these going, and each time the content's a little bit different. So over the course of a few months, we can cover all the different things that people ask us about the most. The content today is based largely on requests that we've received over the last month through our calls that Trey and Jeff and others have made and input we solicit from you. And a lot of questions have come in about pickup groups, how you use them, how you program them, what they're for, auto attendants, and some tips and tricks on those, hunt groups and what they can do and how to program them, and also work groups and how those work and how we program them. So that's what we're going to cover today, and that's what the agenda is. Before we get started, I do want to let you know again that our client success team, which is Trey Taylor and Jeff Bowling, they've been making progress over the past several months. I'm glad that several of you have taken their calls. We appreciate that. Trey and Jeff are doing a good job of trying to make sure you're aware of what's going on with our support, also what our training options are, and then getting feedback from you on things we can add in these classes and other things. So thanks for giving them that support. John and Alex, our two new technicians, are about 4 weeks in on the training program. You'll be hearing more from them as you call in for reactive support. John and Alex are going to be fully trained probably in about another couple of months, but for now they are still taking some calls with supervision, so you'll hear more from those guys. And Cheryl, our new finance admin, is about a month and a half in her training program, and she's doing great. So she's helping us with invoicing and all those things. The registration link is online. I'll send you that as a follow-up as well. Obviously, you all found it okay, so I'm glad you joined, but we have training scheduled all the way out to March, and then in a couple of weeks, I'm going to add dates in April, May, and June of next year. So we'll keep this going. As we all know, ShoreTel is now Mitel. What we're talking about today, of course, is specifically Mitel Connect admin, which is the legacy ShoreTel. So I know that sounds confusing, but it's ShoreTel, now Mitel Connect. 14.2, which is the other version that many of you have, the setup and the capabilities and the functionality and how you get there inside Director is super, super similar. So all the concepts we teach in this class today, all of those apply to 14.2 as well. So if you have 14.2, this is still a good class for you. 14.2 is still supported. It's still actively out there. We have a lot of customers on it. We're not going to force anybody off of it. The end of support has been extended all the way out until next September. So you got, almost 11 months there. Nothing really to worry about on the software. On the hardware, support's all the way out for, several years. So again, nothing urgent going on in terms of support changing. At the end of life, when the support does end, just remember, it doesn't mean that the system stops working. Everything will still work. All the phones still work. You can still add licenses. You can still do all those things. It's just that if there are issues that are not considered critical, then it's on a best effort basis to support that. Verteks, of course, is 100% committed to Mitel in this partnership we have with them. This is our only voice over IP and unified communications platform. We don't sell or support anything else. This is all we do. We've actually added about 5 new clients just in the last month. So again, we're heavily focused on Mitel, Mitel 14.2, Connect, mobility, contact center, all those things, and that's what we're sticking with. And that's 100% commitment. We're not changing. If you're still considering Connect and you haven't done anything about it yet, a quick highlight on that, you do have access to some new phones when you migrate to Connect. There are some security enhancements with Connect, the new Director interface, which I'm going to show you some of today. We also have that new Edge gateway, which is fantastic. It does not require a VPN for the phone at the edge. It's super slick, works, I think, a lot better than the VPN concentrator. Plus, it can be virtualized. It's just very nice. A new desktop client for Mitel Connect, which a lot of people really like. I'll pull it up just in a second so you can see it, but that's kind of the new client, very pretty looking. Sparse in some ways, but just nice overall. A new mobility client, which I use heavily. I love mobility. On my iPhone, I can be out on Wi-Fi and place a call, and it's just like I'm in the office. For contact center folks, it's just browser-based. There's no need to have a installation on that, which makes it easier. We also support G Suite, and we also support several other things you can see there on the right. So a lot of these stuff in Connect. Highly recommend you look into it if you haven't done it yet. New phones has been very popular. A lot of you, through talking to Jeff and Trey, have expressed a lot of interest in learning about these phones. I'm not going to make a sales pitch for phones. That's not why we're here, but I do want to quickly point out just, this is a 2-line, entry-level, low-cost phone. You don't have to change phones. The 4 series phones, the 2 series phones, they all work. They all continue to work. They work on Connect. They're compatible with Connect. They're not end of life. You can still even get some of them. So you can keep your phones. Some people have expressed interest in changing phones or getting new phones. These options are out there for them. Obviously, a 6-line phone, a 12-line phone, and then kind of a touchscreen executive phone, and then a bunch of cool accessories. We're migrating all of our phones to these here internally. I just signed a PO to do that, and the reason is just so we have them all for support reasons. But I like this Bluetooth speakerphone that can be detached. A lot of cool things there. A new rechargeable handset that's, I look down here, no cord, so you don't have to worry about cords anymore. And then this is a neat one, which is a Wi-Fi adapter. So if you've got a remote area with no Cat5 on there, but you do have power, you can put a phone on your Wi-Fi and tie it to that Wi-Fi adapter. So that's neat as well. Not going to bore you with these things, but those accessories are very cool and all made by Mitel, supported by us, and they're affordable. Actually, they're not very expensive. So if you're interested, ask Jeff and Trey. They'll get you all the information you want. So the agenda. Here are the main things that we want to cover today. And I want you to definitely submit through either chat or through questions things that you feel you'd like to cover as well, in addition to or related to these things. So I'm going to talk about pickup groups, what they are and how they work, auto attendants, what they are and how they work, hunt groups, and work groups. So we're going to cover all those things, and I'm going to show it to you in a live demo mode so that it's kind of easy to see, and that's what we're touching on. First, pickup groups. Pickup groups, put it simply, are usually used when people work in teams. So let's say you work in a small team, and that small team has got 4 or 5 people in it, and you can hear each other's phones ring. Maybe have set up different ringers, perhaps, or you're just accustomed to it. And you want to help them out if they're not at their phone or they're away from their desk. With a pickup group, we can put 4 or 5 of you folks in the same group, then assign a button to it, and whenever you hear somebody in your group's phone ring, you press a button and it picks it up even if it's not your phone. So it really is great for team collaboration. We see pickup groups used heavily in kind of, bullpen areas or areas where you got cubicles. Pickup groups are also great in kind of a executive assistant role. So one of the ones we have is a client who's in the defense industry, and they have about 4 or 5 executives per executive assistant. So they got this big open area where all the executive assistants are. There's about half a dozen of them, and the executives are in offices around them. So the assistants are in one big pickup group, and then each executive assistant also has his or her people they support in another group. So whenever you hear those phones ring, they can press a button and grab them. It's easy to configure, but there is a warning, and I want to caution you on this. The pickup group feature does consume switch resources, but when you configure it in Director, it doesn't warn you if you overconsume those resources. That's a kind of a design flaw. That's the way it's always worked. It's not a bug, because Mitel is expecting these things to be administered by people who are aware of these resource limits. If you aren't aware and you're concerned that you're going to go over, absolutely contact us and we will run a quick report and we'll show you the capacity and if you're over or not. Put simply though, you can have 24 members per group, 16 groups per switch, and the sum of all members cannot exceed 80. Obviously, if you multiply 16 by 24, that's way more than 80. So you can't, you can mix and match it, you just can't go over 80 on the switch. And a single user can be a member of up to 5 pickup groups and no more. Remembering a single switch can host a combined total of 24 hunt groups, bridge call appearances, and pickup groups. So if you're doing all those things, hunt groups, bridge call appearances, and pickup groups, the total combined is 24. So it says 24 pickup groups per, or I'm sorry, 16 groups per switch here. Just remember, if you have 20 hunt groups on a switch, you now can only have 4 pickup groups. So just keep in mind those caveats on capacity, okay? So how do users use them? They can use them in several ways. One is if they're on an IP phone, they have a programmable button on their phone. You simply press that button, enter the extension for a pickup, and it'll pick it up. You can also do a soft key. That's what I like to do. In the Mitel Connect client, you can set up over here as an example, you can set up one of these buttons for a pickup group. That's super easy, and just click it, and that's the way to get it answered. Also, you can hit the pickup command from the call menu. Personally, I've never done that, so I don't advise you to do it because it's kind of too many steps. Lastly, this one's a little bit tweaky, but it does work. If you have an analog phone, an old-fashioned dial tone phone, non-IP, you can use a star code. Star 13 is the star code, then the pickup group extension, and then it answers those calls. So let me go into showing you how to do these pickup groups. I'm going to pull up Director here, and now you have that on the screen. And in Director, just as a reminder, you do have the ability to go to this documentation button. And when you click the documentation button, it'll tell you kind of everything in the Doc Center. It's all here. It's on a website, everything you need. The 2 documents that you need the most, that are the most important for you, number 1 is this Mitel Connect System Admin Guide. That's the number 1 most critical thing you need to reference, and that's what we reference when we do this stuff. Number 2, kind of less commonly used, is this Mitel Connect Planning and Installation Guide. I know the abbreviation for that is P.I.G, but we use it all the time. The Planning and Install Guide is more for installers like us, but there are some kind of more in-depth explanations in here that do benefit you. The Mitel Admin Guide is something we use, heavily all the time. So I'd highly encourage you to always have those and reference them, because that's what I do. So back to pickup groups. When you want to work on a pickup group, it's over here under the wrench, under Features. When you click on Features, you'll scroll down and you'll see Call Control. And then scroll down again, and you can see this Pickup Groups right there. Alternately, you can just go to the search bar and literally type Pickup Group, and it takes you right to it. So I love that search capability. So now that we're in Pickup Groups, got a question. Will we receive the recorded session at the end of this webinar? Yes, you will. Thanks for asking that. We'll definitely give it to you. So once you're in the Pickup Groups area, you see I already have one in here. I'm going to create a new one for the sales group. So I go to the top and I click New. And down here, it says New Pickup Group. I'm going to change this one to Sales Pickup. The Mitel automatically creates an extension number for me. And then it asks me what switch I want to place this on. Now remember, as I mentioned earlier, these switches have capacity limits. So you always want to check that to make sure you're not over capacity. If you're not sure, please ask us. We'll be glad to show you. Let me save this and I'll click View Switch. 1 second. If I hit Save this and I click View Switch, it'll take you over here. It'll show you all your capacities. IP phones in use, capacity. Trunks in use, capacity. Proxies, capacity. Do you see all that? It's all right there for you. Hunt groups, 5. That tells me I've got 5 hunt groups on there. And as we know, because we mentioned it in our deal here earlier, once you got those 5 hunt groups in there, you actually can only now have a max of 11 pickup groups on that switch. But it's all right there for you. Just remember those capacities and don't forget them. People do get into trouble with those. Now back to the sales pickup group. The last thing it asks me for is this extension list. The extension list are who are the members of the pickup group. Now I created one called Sales Group. I'm going to save this and I'm going to take you to that. It's by clicking this link, View Extension List. Here's the sales group. In that extension list, On the right, here are all the members. Under this, it says selected. These are the members. It's super easy to take phones in or out. I just click on the one I want to take in or out and move it over or move it back. I've got one that says Don Gulling and one that says copy of Don Gulling. Why would you need that? Well, I do a lot of these demos and I have to have multiple phones on my desk. I literally have 3 Mitel phones on my desk. And the reason is I need to have one to talk to you on, and then the other 2 I can simulate actions on. So that's why I have a copy phone. Anyway, here's all the members. You can see it's easy to add or remove members. I can just pop them in, pop them out. Kind of couldn't be easier. I'm going to make this extension list really big, and you see I can scroll through all my people here and see everybody that's in it or not in it and add or remove them. That extension list is modified, so now you're good to go. Next thing I want to show you, I've created a pickup group. I've assigned it to an extension list. Now what I want to do, I want to put it on a user as a button. So I'm going to go over to users, and I'm going to go to Don Gulling, which is my phone. And in my phone, I'm going to choose View Programmable Buttons. When I click on that, it'll show me my buttons for IP phones. Hey, somebody's on here talking. Who's that? If you would mute, I'd appreciate it. IP phones, scroll down here, and I'm going to find one, an open one. I have a call appearance. So I'm going to choose that, and I'm going to go to this group pickup area. It says group pickup. That's what we're using. I type in sales, and I can type in the extension. I can just start typing sales. You'll see it actually finds it for me. It finds the sales pickup group. I select that, hit save. Now on my phone, as we're on this call, literally, there's a sales button. It just showed up. So if I hear anyone in that member list, if I hear their phones ringing, I can press that pickup group button. It grabs their phone, and I'm on the call. So hopefully that kind of explains pickup groups. I set up the group, assign it to a switch, set up the extension list, and then I can put it on a user's button. Lastly, if you want, I can also put it on a toolbar. Let me show you that one real quick. Here's my client toolbars. I go here, I click a new one, group pickup, right? I put sales pick, and then I type in sales, and it'll find the group right there for me. See that? Now I hit save, and it puts it for me on my toolbar list. I can go down here to the bottom. It says sales pick. See that? I just added it. Now on my Connect client, right here, sales pickup, just like that. So I'm not going to do a demo sales pickup because I'm using this phone for my audio for the conference, but it's super easy to do it. I'll actually dial it from another phone here. I'll dial another member, and then when I dial that member, you can see that what happens is I get the option to answer that call. Actually, you know what? I don't want to pick up the audio, so let's just leave it as is for now. Next time I'll do it over the web audio, and it'll be a little easier to demo that stuff. So that's sales, that's pickup groups. That's all that we're going to cover on those. Hopefully that answers a lot of questions we got about pickup groups. Next, auto attendants. So auto attendants are something we probably get the most questions on, frankly, around the holidays. We get several calls from clients, generally like the day before Thanksgiving or the day before Christmas or the day before New Year's or the day before any other holiday, and they want to know how they can change their auto attendant. So I'm going to give you some of those examples and walk you through what you can do with auto attendants and hopefully give you some clarity about what's available to you. But here are some options that auto attendants can be used for as well. Answering the main number, routing calls to work groups, providing automated directions, which is informational auto attendants, which are nice, and providing a way for users to log into voicemail. That's another way. It's a kind of a backdoor into your system. One of our city clients, actually several of our city clients, when they have big city events, they have a custom auto attendant, and the auto attendant will say, here's where to park for fireworks, Here's what you need to know about, Eustis has a thing called George Fest, which is a big event. Here's all the details about George Fest, and they publish a special number. People can dial that number, and then it goes to the automated attendant. So that's a nice way to do that. One thing you need to be careful of when you're doing auto attendant design is to make sure that you do it in a way that doesn't frustrate your callers. So what I mean by that, it's a best practice to have no more than 2 to 3 levels of menus. I'd try to do it within 2 if at all possible. 3 is sometimes necessary. You just don't want to go deeper than that. Also, you always want to have a 0 out on every menu. So if they get no sub menu and they went too far and you want to back up, you always want to let them back up. But also the 0 key potentially gives them a live person. Some people don't want to do 0 out because they know that callers might abuse it. I still think it's the best practice. Return to previous menu I just mentioned, usually use the star key for that. And you want to keep prompts quick and clear. There are some examples in the admin guide, and I'm going to walk you through those. So briefly, let's pull up that admin guide. I want to show you how to find that. Go to page number 1 and literally just type auto attendant, and it'll take you to configuring the auto attendant. It's a clickable link, and you can scroll through here and see all the options. It talks about call handling modes, on hours, off hours, holiday, and custom. It talks about schedule setup, having nested automated attendants, and so on. I'm not going to bore you with this, but I do want to let you know that admin guide is fantastic, and it's definitely something I would recommend. So let's go back to the wrench here, and I want to configure automated attendants. There's an auto attendant button right here for you. Don't sweat if you can't find it. You can literally just type attendant right here. It'll pull it up. It'll take you to the exact same place. So just remember, you've always got that search feature. This is a list of all the auto attendants inside Verteks Consulting. We have, if you remember Hurricane Irma, that was a thing for Ocala folks, right? So that's in there still. And we have the Verteks Consulting main auto attendant. I want to maximize this screen. This is the main auto attendant we use day in, day out. Somebody asked, is this like setting up a script? It's kind of like setting up a script, yeah. I'll show you exactly what it does. So in the general tab of the auto attendant, you've got a name, the extension number, which it'll automatically assign for you, language settings, and so on. This is a neat little box here at the bottom. It says allow prompt recording using telephone. Now, what does that mean? That means that you can change the audio on the auto attendant prompt remotely without a computer. So an example for this one is, if you have an emergency auto attendant that your staff wants to call and someone on your team wants to keep that thing updated, they can call in from their cell phone, choose the extension, and then they can record it as long as they use this password. You definitely want to have a password here because you don't want some external party potentially hacking your auto attendant and changing the recording. We do not allow ours to be recorded remotely for lots of reasons, but it is an option. Then at the top, you're going to see there's on hours, off hours, holiday, and custom tabs. Each of these tabs has totally separate settings for the audio prompt, the menu options, and so on. Why? Well, when you have a main auto attendant, typically you want it to have one set of functions when you're open, and one kind of prompt when it's open, and a different one when it's closed. But you can, in advance, pre-program your holiday dates and have a special one for a holiday, or you can have a custom one which could be an emergency mode or all kinds of things. So remember, you always have those, and those are in your schedule. So let's look at our on hours mode. In the on hours mode, at the top, there's a prompt text area. This prompt text area is not text to speech or anything. It's just for us to have the ability to know what is in here and what options are available. So you have to type this. It doesn't do speech to text or text to speech. However, it's a great reference. And whenever we set up a new system, we always put the prompt text in here so we know what it says. Then at the bottom half, you'll see all our options are down here, right? All these options of what you want it to do. Since it's using a telephone number pad, you've only got 0 through 9 plus star and pound. That's all the keys you have. You don't have any more. Ours, the options are 0 out goes to the help desk. Option 2 goes to sales. Option 3 goes to the help desk. Option 4 to accounting, which is a hunt group. Option 5 goes to the help desk. As you can see, a trend here, a lot of it goes there. We also have a dial by name directory, and we have the option for our team externally to call in and go to their voicemail. If you don't press a button, it repeats the prompt. And if you keep pressing the wrong button multiple times, it'll actually eventually disconnect you. So those are all the options. Let me show you how to add one. So right now, option 6, there is no option. I check that or choose that arrow, and here are all the options that I can do. A name directory by first name, by last name, go directly to an extension, like a single user or finance manager's Tangerine. I could have had the accounting option go straight to her, but we have an assistant now, so I have it go to the hunt group. You can have it go to a sub menu, a nested menu below it. The login and voicemail, as we mentioned, repeat the prompt, take a message. That's a neat one because what it does is it creates a mailbox for the auto attendant. That mailbox for that auto attendant does not require a license. So that's a nice way to get kind of a free mailbox. And it doesn't cost you an extension license. And then take a message by first name, by last name, or transfer to a specific extension. So all those options are available to you. When you have your options configured, let me add one here. Let's do a go to extension. And in here, we can choose, I don't know, think of one. Copy of Don Gulling. So super easy to do. I could change that and make it Trey Taylor, just like that. When I do that, hit save, that's now on the menu, or none. At the top here, what I want to highlight for you that's critical is the schedule. So a schedule is the ability for you to have the auto attendant behave differently at different times of day. This is probably the thing we get the most questions about auto attendants is schedules. So in the main auto attendant, my on hours mode has a schedule. I'm going to click that button. I'm not going to save any changes. I don't need to do that. And it takes me to my on hours schedule. It's right here on the bottom. My on hours schedule is Eastern time, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. 4:30 on Fridays. The only reason being, nobody's calling us. Actually, you can see how easy it is. I'll just change it to 17:30 and hit save, and just like that, it's 5:30. So remember that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, there's your schedule. If you need to change the start time, you just go here and change the start time up or down. Super easy to do. I do get a lot of questions from customers sometimes about what's the off-hour schedule. Well, it's the opposite of this. The Mitel knows the start time and end time of the on hours are the same as the beginning time and ending time of the off hours. So your on hours and off hour schedules are configured right here in on hours. So that hopefully answers the question about on hours. Holiday schedules are different. I'm going to show you those. So back to the VCI main auto attendant and go to holiday mode. Make it full screen. And in holiday mode here on the schedule, it says, use our holidays schedule. I click that, takes me to a different page, a totally different configuration. In the Mitel world, in Director, holidays are the whole day. Frequently, customers will ask us, "Hey, we want to have off on Christmas Day, but we want to be open on Christmas Eve until 1 p.m. or noon," as an example. What we tell them is, let's put Christmas Day in the holiday mode in this schedule. Let's put Christmas Eve on the time schedule and just change it for that one day, remembering when we get back the day after Christmas, we have to change that day back. So as an example, this year, obviously Christmas is December 25th. That's known. That's a Wednesday. So that Monday, the 23rd, when I come in, I would look at my time schedule and say, okay, let's change the 24th to on hours from 7:30 a.m. to noon. That way it'll flip over to Christmas mode. So I actually haven't added the 2019 Christmas schedule yet. I don't know why we don't have it on there right now, but I'm going to click it in today. So I click on Add, and I choose Christmas Day. It's called Christmas 2019. And then here it lets me flip through and go to 12/25/19. Hit Save. Now that's on my holiday schedule. Same thing with New Year's Day, right? So New Year's Day, obviously the first, but the day of the week is a Wednesday, 1/1. So I'm going to add New Year's Day. I put New Year's 2019, and I'm going to make it January 1st. Oh, sorry about that, folks. I hit the wrong mouse button. That's Christmas. Here's. So now I've got my Christmas and my New Year's date set. I click on Save, and those are in my holiday schedule. If I want to be closed early the day before, I need to do that in the on hour schedule right in here. I'd come in, and the day before, like Christmas is on a Wednesday, so on Monday I'd come in, I'd look at the Tuesday schedule and say, hey, let's back this down to noon. We're going to be, let's say we close at Christmas Eve at noon. Do that, and now I could hit Save, and it would change it to noon. I'm not going to change that today. I'm going to leave it as is. So that's a holiday schedule. That's the on-hour schedule for an auto attendant. Super easy to do. Again, probably the most common question I ask. Going back to the auto attendant, another reminder for you, if you want us to help you do this, we're absolutely glad to do it. You'll have support if you're on this call probably, so we can do it for you. Just remember, when we come in here, we're going to want your prompt text and then what the options do, and we'll program them all for you. The last thing on auto attendants I want to say is, if you want a professional voice talent to record your auto attendant, we're totally glad to do that. When you call Verteks in our office, you hear our auto attendant, the voice of it matches the built-in Mitel voice. That's who we use, and it's very affordable. It's not that much money, and you can have professional voice talent record all your in use for you. So if there's any other questions on Mitel auto attendants, just pop them in the chat, or the questions, I'll be glad to answer them for you. So let's move on to hunt groups. So what can hunt groups be used for? Well, several things. One primary way to use it is if you use Workgroups for call distribution and you have people logging in and logging out of Workgroups. Workgroups live on a Mitel HQ or DVS server that's a Windows server, whereas hunt groups live on a switch, which could be a Mitel physical switch or a Mitel virtual switch. In the old-fashioned ShoreTel world, we'd always say, let's put a hunt group as a backup for a work group, because hunt groups are in switches and they're immune to Windows problems. These Mitel servers and very reliable anyway, but people want backups. So that's a good way to do it. Also, as a call forwarding destination. What do I mean by that? So let's say you have a small business and people call you directly. You may want somebody to answer calls that you aren't able to answer. That gives you an alternate destination. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say you don't have an operator or you don't have a receptionist in your business, but you do have a team that helps you. So you set up a hunt group for that team. And then when someone leaves you a voicemail, you could say, to reach someone on my team, press 0. You could set up your call forward destination to that hunt group. It'll ring that hunt group and they can answer for you instead of it going to the help desk or main menu. That's a very popular use of it. Distribution of calls to operators or backup operators, a very popular one. A lot of organizations will have a person answering calls on the front side, call them him or her an operator or a receptionist. If they walk away or they're at lunch or they just forget to pick up the phone, we can set up a hunt group to back that person up, set the receptionist or operator phone to a couple of rings. If it doesn't answer, drop it on a work group that's larger, they can get it faster. And then another option is what we call common line monitoring or mainline monitoring. In some businesses that are really small, they like to have the numbers ring in and just ring 5 phones at the same time all the time. Absolutely, you can do that with a hunt group. Some tips. This is another issue where you're going to have capacity limits, okay? This one people get in trouble with all the time. I had a big customer, very large, multiple thousands of phones, was having some flaky problems. When they called us with a report of flaky problems, the first thing we did is we checked the switch capacities and looked at the diagnostics on the switch capacities and found out they had set up like hundreds of work groups and didn't tell us, or hunt groups, I'm sorry, and didn't tell us, and had consumed all these resources, and that created flaky problems. So just remember, there's limits here. If it's an older shore gear switch, so if it's 5-year-old switch, it can do 8 groups with 16 members max. If it's a newer ST series switch, it can do 24 hunt groups, 16 members each. Each hunt group can also have a 24 call stack. Lastly, if it's a virtual switch, you get a high capacity, 24 hunt groups, 16 each. So for bigger clients, if you've got virtualization, VMware specifically, we highly recommend running a virtual switch. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. There's no charge for it, literally. We give you this file or we do it for you. We put it in your VMware. It makes a virtual shore gear switch, no licensing required. Put as many, up to 24 hunt groups on there, and that's the way to get through these resource constraints. So you always want to remember that this is subject to the overall capacity, just like I talked to you about before. And if you have any questions about it, please call us. We're absolutely glad to help you with that and show you exactly how those capacities work. So what I'm going to do now is, as you can imagine, again, this is up here at the wrench, right? Let's say you don't know where hunt groups are. You can just type in hunt. It'll take you right there, and it'll show you hunt groups. So super easy to find just by going to hunt groups. But it is under features, call control, hunt groups. That's where it lives. We have several hunt groups, as you can see. Here are all the names of them, their extensions, and what switches they're on. So for us, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 on this physical SG switch, SG50 switch. This is kind of an emergency disaster readiness type deal for us, just in case everything else was down. Let's say all of our Windows servers were down, power was down. These shore gear switches are on different battery racks, and they last a long, long time. So we always have kind of an emergency backup there. But the rest of them we keep on our virtual phone switch. You can also see the number of members in the group. Our biggest hunt group is what we call the backup hunt group. That's there, again, as a disaster readiness thing for us. If our call center is ever down, it could go to the backup group. Haven't had to use it, call center doesn't go down, but it's there. This one gets used all the time, the sales hunt group. So when you call our office and you choose the menu option for sales, this is where it goes to the sales hunt group. That was in our Auto Attendant. I'll flip back there real quick and show it to you. On the Verteks main AA in on hours, when they choose the option for sales, which is option 2, it says right there, sales hunt group. So when you call us and hit 2, you're using a hunt group. So let's go to that one. Let's go to the sales hunt group and maximize the screen here at the bottom and let you see what the options are. Don't ever change the extension, leave that as is. But you're required to have what's called a backup extension. A backup extension is if the hunt group is down or the hunt group reaches its limit, what phone rings? This one's set to go to John Childers right now. A little bit farther down, there's a checkbox here. Include in system dial by name directory. It's checked, so it's on. If you call our office and you choose the dial by name option and you kind of type in with your keypad the word sales, it'll give you that extension. If you take that out, it won't be in the directory. What switch it lives on, as I showed you, it's on our virtual phone switch, and the capacity is fine. Call stack depth. This call stack depth is how many concurrent simultaneous calls can hit that hunt group. Remember, once an individual user picks up the call, it's not going to stack anymore. Next is probably the question we get asked the most: distribution pattern. Top down or simultaneous? So top down looks at the member list and rings the first phone first every time, no matter what. Simultaneous, all the phones ring at the same time. Rings per member, that's how many times the phone rings, and then no answer number of rings. Now, in a simultaneous call ringing, these should be basically the same. 3 rings and answer it. If it doesn't answer, where does it go? Here, it goes to our help desk team. In a top-down world, though, you might say, I want to have Don, Trey, Jeff, Brittany, John in the group. I want it top-down. I want it to ring 2 rings per member, and I want to give it 6 rings. That means it'll cycle through up to 3 people, right, before it finally goes to the backup destination. That's what top-down versus simultaneous means. That's also described in the admin guide, and it walks you through an exact example. Here's an option: call member when forwarding all calls. I'll tell you what that means. If you have a user who has his or her call handling set up to call forward all calls to a different extension, and they're in a hunt group, you can make it still ring their phone by checking this box. Skip member if already on a call. So I'm on a call with you right now. If this was checked and someone dialed the sales group, it won't ring me. Since I'm already on a call, if this is unchecked, it will ring me. So skip member if already on a call basically means you want it to present a call to them if they're already on a call. How can they answer it? Obviously, they can just pop to the other call. It shows up in the communicator. You can see it. It's very straightforward. If the call stack is full, where to go? If there's no answer, where to go? This can be any extension or a group or you name it. This goes to our contact center. Off hours or holiday destination. We have ours blank, and the reason it's blank is because you can't get to it in off hours mode. Our auto attendant doesn't let you dial it, so that's why there's no extension there. On our schedule, again, we've got it set to none. The reason it's set to none is because we're governing access to this group from the auto attendant, and the auto attendant schedule matters. We don't need a separate schedule for the hunt group because we're using the one for the auto attendant. Same goes for holiday. We don't need a schedule because, again, we're using the schedule from the auto attendant. I know all this can sound a little bit confusing sometimes if you're not familiar with hunt groups. So we're here to help. Call. Again, that's what your support is for. But a lot of it asked, what do these things do? So I wanted to walk you through them. Just remember, when you're looking at schedules, you don't need to have a schedule on everything. You only need to have it on the first thing in the first link in the chain. So that is hunt group main settings. Next is the member page. This looks a lot like the pickup page, right? Very similar idea. You can choose the number of people in the view screen and who's available and scroll right through them. And you can see here who's in it. These are all the members of our sales group. That's everybody who's in it when the phone rings. Here's all the people who aren't in it, and I can potentially add them. So those are hunt group options. If you got any questions, definitely pop them in the question or chat window. Be glad to kind of cover those for you. Next, Workgroups. Workgroups is a licensed feature. So remember, if you set up Workgroups, you must have licenses. If you don't have licenses, you will get a warning, but it will still let you do it. That's fine. That warning has a timer, and at the end of that timer, which is 45 days, you'll have to call us for support to unlock it. So there is a license timer on Workgroup licenses. You can oversubscribe and put in more than you have. Just remember, it's going to warn you. That warning is legit. At the end of that timer, nothing breaks, nothing goes down, but you can no longer get into Director. You can't make any changes. You have to call us and we have to unlock it for you. We're glad to do it, but no exaggeration, we probably unlock the system at least once a week. So Workgroups are groups of agents that receive incoming calls. Workgroups use automatic call distribution to distribute to members. So unlike a hunt group, Workgroups can queue calls. So let's say you had 2 agents that you wanted to allow to take calls in a workgroup. In a workgroup world, once those 2 are on the phone, the next caller that comes in, it tells that caller whatever we want to say. It plays music for them. It can have messaging. Thanks for continuing to hold. We'll be right with you. Please stay on the line, etc. We can even insert messages about average hold times and so on. So Workgroups is a very powerful call center functionality and a very low price. Super easy to configure, all done right in the HQ server. It distributes calls to agents, queues as needed. You can have up to 300 members in a work group, including agents and supervisors. And we have a couple people that have work groups about that big. And we can also do very detailed reports on work groups with built-in reports inside Director. But also, if you use Brightmetrics, the reports are fantastic. A couple other things I want to talk about. Automatic call distribution, which is the ability to distribute the calls once they hit the work group, has 4 patterns for distributing agents. If no agent is available, calls either go to a voicemail box for that work group, which every agent can see, or to a queue where calls wait until agent's available. Or if they don't answer, we can have it flip it to a hunt group, or we can send it to an extension. So all kinds of options if the call isn't answered. Here are the distribution patterns, top down. Another reminder on top down, it always starts with the first agent in the queue and then sequentially searches them in the order you provide. So if you always want it to be Don, John, Trey, Jeff, Don's going to get the very call every single time unless he's on the phone. Then it goes to the second person. Top down, somewhat uncommon. It's people do use it occasionally, but that first person in the list, they're going to get almost all the calls. Round robin. This is pretty popular. Not the most, but I'll tell you it's pretty popular. Round robin starts with the next available agent in the list and sequentially searches through it until agent is found. The search starts with the agent that is next in line after the agent that received the call last, and so on. What do I mean by that? You have agents number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. It's 5-agent group. First call comes in for the day, it goes to agent number 1. Agent number 1 doesn't answer, it rolls over. Next call of the day goes to agent number 2. If they don't answer, it rolls over, and so on. So the 4th call of the day, it goes to agent number 4 first. Very simple. So it keeps moving the start point. If the agent who's called doesn't answer, it goes to the next and the next and so on, but always starts with kind of a new person. The most common we get in workgroup world is this longest idle. What longest idle means is send it to the agent who's logged in, who hasn't talked as much on the phone. This seems the most fair in most work groups. So if you have those 5 agents and one of them's on the phone, 7 hours in the day for whatever reason, and somebody else is not on the phone for 5 minutes, that person at 5 minutes got a lot of catch-up time. Basically, every call is going to go to them. This helps work groups and the load on calls stay even so that calls are distributed, equitably among agents. Lastly, not recommended for lots of reasons, but you can send all the calls to all the agents at the same time. The issue is you have 6, 7 phones ringing at once. That's more of a hunt group functionality, but you can do it with a work group too. So let me pop over into work groups and show you that. As a reminder, of course, in the admin guide, let's go to page number 1 and search for work group. That's not the one I want to hit. Let's see here. Actually, I think I want to go to the installation guide. Go to page 1 first. Yeah, now I search Workgroups. Well, I guess it is the admin guide. Page number 1, one more time. Scroll down. And call control options, hunt groups, page groups, route points, call control, user features. Actually, kind of a surprise. There's really not a ton. There we go. Sorry. Chapter 17, page 493. I guess I didn't recall it was on page 493. Sorry about that. So there's a whole section on work groups in here. I wanted to show it to you because it goes really in depth. Talks about all the things we're going to talk about here, covers every single option, gives you graphical, examples, talks you through every single setup. You don't have to do this on your own, though. We are here for you. Juan, Brian, Scott, Steve, Mike, all the other folks. We're here for that. But if you want to get educated on it, that's where you go. So back into to work groups. I can go to the top, and as you imagine, I can just type work groups and go straight there. It's under work groups, its own thing under features. Let me minimize all these here. So you see work groups as its own kind of heading. In work groups, what you'll see at Verteks, we have a main work group. Now we're setting this up as a backup for our call center because we use the call center software. But we have a work group as a backup just in case the call center were ever to be down. In our main work group, it has a name, an extension number, a backup extension, which is a hunt group, which is on a switch. So again, redundancy there. We do not have it in the directory because it's a backup. It's assigned to a user group, so all VCI users can be members. It resides on the soft switch, which is our virtual switch. It's in English, etc. Under routing, we have it set to simultaneous. I know I said earlier, that's not recommended. I'll tell you why we have it that way. We have it that way because this is a backup work group, not production. It's only used if the call center is down. And if the call center is down, something bad has happened. So we want it to ring everybody until it's answered. You can have a schedule attached to it on the on-hour schedule or off-hour schedule, you name it. Ours is just a backup, so it doesn't need a schedule. It'll only work and kick in if the call center's down. Well, let's create a new one. So I'm going to create a new one, and I'm going to call this one training group. I'm going to maximize this screen so we can see all the options. It picks an extension for me that's available. It's already right there. A backup extension, it's always got to have something here. I'm going to make it Don cordless. That's a backup. I don't want it in the directory. I'm not going to have it attached to a DID. I'm going to leave it in the users group. I'm not going to have a mailbox. So it's ready to go just like that. I click save. Now I have a training group. It's ready to go. Click on members. You can see in the selected, it's empty. There's nobody here. I'll go ahead and add some people. Copy of Don Gulling. Let me make this a bigger list. Let's put in Brittany. She's great. She can help us out there. Let's put in my phone, of course. Let's put in Trey. He's our client success manager. Let's put in Jeff, and then we'll be done. So those are our work group members. My cordless, Brittany, Don, Trey, Jeff. Save. Members are good to go. Interestingly, in my Connect client, I showed it to you earlier, this wasn't there. It is now because I've been placed in a work group. I can click on it, and now you can see my work group functionality. I'm in the training group. How many calls are queued? What's the longest queued? What's the longest call? And I can even get some details. Who are the agents? And I can see all this right inside the Connect client. It did that all for me because I made myself a member of that group, It just automatically added it right there. So that Mitel is very slick like that. Let's go up to routing. This is probably the most important question. On hours routing, let's say we're going to use the on hour schedule. Very simple. Distribution pattern. I told you about longest idle. The computer figures that out. I told you about simultaneous. It's everybody. Let's go to top down, and we'll do the top down call routing. Call forward, only on no answer. If it's busy, who to send it to? I can make this anybody I want. If it's no answer, who to send it to? I can make it anybody I want. How many rings until it's forwarded? I can make it 6. And how many rings per agent? We'll make it 2. So that's the on hours recording, or the on hours call routing. That's all configured. I'm going to go into queue handling. This is the tricky part, okay? I know we're in bonus time. I'll make it quick. Queue handling, I can set up a warning, and I can have a call waiting time warning. I can allow agents to pick up directly from that queue. Remember over here, there was this button, and it showed all these calls, right? I could let an agent grab it right from there if I wanted to. That's the idea about letting agents answer their own calls. I'm not going to do that here, though. Step 1, I'm not going to skip it. I'm not going to announce estimated wait time. I'm just going to tell it, thank you, caps lock there. Thank you for calling the training group. Please stay on the line for the next agent. We appreciate your patience. Very simple. That's it. Now I can record that greeting and play it, and when the person calls in, that's what they'll hear. Step number 2, I could have a different step. Step 2 could be announce estimated wait time. So you've been on the phone for a bit, I want to announce estimated wait time. This estimated wait time uses a computerized voice that's built into the system and tells them the time that it thinks you're going to pick up based on the previous part of the day. So it can be off. The reason is it's using a computer formula. That computer formula is based on an average. It could be less or more time. People ask us a lot about estimated wait time and they're worried about it. Sometimes I just tell them, hey, instead of having the computer do the wait time, let's not do that. Let's just record it and say, thank you for continuing to hold. Your estimated wait time is, 2 minutes. And I will literally just record me saying that. Now be careful. The way we do this is we look at the history of the work group and we look at the history of wait time, and then we say, here's about the average. That way you're not using the estimated wait time, which can throw callers off, but you are using a time to let them know, here's what to expect. Once all those things are done, I save it and my work group is configured. On my members list, there's an up down here. You see this up and down? That's when you're using the top-down routing I talked about. You can move an agent to the top. So that way Trey here gets all the calls first, right? I'm going to go down to Don Gulling for a second, and I'm going to log me in. Now, as you can see, it says logged in. I hit save. In my work group, I'm ready to take calls. It knows I'm logged in. And you'll see here, Don is logged in right there. Don Gulling, training group. Now, it does show I'm on the phone, and it gives me some options. I can chat with Don and say, hey, you need to get off the phone, or whatever. So very powerful functionality with work groups. Just to reiterate on work groups one last time, you definitely want to reference this chapter 17 if you want to get educated on it. This is essentially the ultimate reference guide for hunt groups or for work groups that we use ourselves. So highly recommended for you to skim through this. Several pages I know, but if you want to get in depth, that's where you do it. If you want to just do it at a cursory level and you want us to do it for you, we're glad to do that too, right? Just remember, you can call us. We'll be the ones to set up the work group. We'll train you on it, and we'll do all those things. That's a very common request. So In summary, we covered pickup groups, auto attendants, hunt groups, and work groups. As a reminder, the client success team will be calling you. We are going to record this and post it on YouTube. I will send a link to everyone. And lastly, love your feedback and input on future training topics, or if you want us to go down a different road, let us know. We always want to adapt. Next class is in December. You can register right online just like you did for this one, and hopefully we'll see you there. If I don't talk to you before next class, I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving holiday. I hope you have a great time to separate and give thanks any way you want to. And I know I'll be having a big meal with my family. But even though we are closed on Thanksgiving Day, as you'd expect, we will have emergency support available that day for all of our clients who need to operate. The emergency support option will be available if you need to use it on Thanksgiving Day. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it, and I hope everybody has a great day. I will linger and look at the chat and questions just in case anybody has any more, but that concludes the content for the program. Thank you very much.